Trade train.
That's right. Hop on board the trade train as the Montreal Canadiens have officially dealt Sean Monahan to the Winnipeg Jets in exchange for a 2024 first-round pick and a 2027 conditional third-round pick. And as per Darren Dreger here, the Canadiens will receive a third-round pick in 2027 if Winnipeg wins the Stanley Cup this year. So that's when it becomes a solidified third-round pick, and that would be the condition if the Winnipeg Jets win the Stanley Cup this year. All right, so initial reactions to this deal when I first saw it was that I was a bit underwhelmed, and that's just because of the Lindholm trade the other day, which clearly sparked this trade for Sean Monahan on the market here on an All-Star weekend when the NHL is clearly on a break and clearly not, because there's tons of news coming out right now, which I'm going to get to also at the end of this Monahan trade conversation here. But clearly the Lindholm trade got this thing started, and Sean Monahan is a very coveted asset that frankly the Winnipeg Jets couldn't help but bite on, and now they're going to be looking a lot deeper up the middle for their playoff run as they have taken a resurgence this year. There's also more content I want to get to for the Winnipeg Jets in terms of the motivation for Connor Hellebuck re-signing with the Winnipeg Jets, and that was part and parcel due to the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade. So I'll get into that in a moment, but let's talk about the Canadiens and Sean Monahan here and what the Canadiens are getting back. Well, we know it's a first-round pick, and that was the key piece for Sean Monahan. And also a key piece of information about this deal is that there is no salary retained by the Montreal Canadiens. It goes fully to the Winnipeg Jets. Not that the contract is very big anyway. It's a remaining one-year contract before Sean Monahan goes into his UFA summer. And it was a $1.98 million deal for Sean Monahan for the Canadiens to re-sign him for this season. And again, we know that last year the plan was to move Monahan last year, but then he got injured in December and we weren't able to trade him. But fortunately, he re-signed with the Canadiens on a really low cap hit of $1.98 million, very digestible. And now Kent Hughes has received 2 first-round picks for acquiring Sean Monahan and now trading Sean Monahan from Calgary and now to Winnipeg. 2 first-round picks, one obtained last year when they first acquired Monahan from Calgary. The Canadiens did a first-rounder in 2025, which is conditional. And then now they receive a 2024 first-round pick. And clearly the Canadiens are seeing the opportunity in front of them because they're 26th overall in the standings right now in the NHL. The playoffs are nowhere in sight for the Montreal Canadiens. And frankly, Kent Hughes is making the smart move to do this now, also because you don't want to risk Sean Monahan getting injured before the trade deadline. So we can thank the Vancouver Canucks a little bit for, getting the deal done for Lindholm to encourage this Monahan deal to get done sooner, because we may have lost out entirely if somehow Sean Monahan were to get injured again before the NHL trade deadline on March the 8th. So frankly, I'm not that disappointed when I look at it the proper way, which is that the Canadiens were smart. They used the time here on the All-Star and bye week to make this deal for Sean Monahan happen. It's official, and there are some pretty interesting reactions coming in. This is important that this Sean Monahan deal happens with no salary retained, because it leaves one retention slot open for Montreal to make further moves ahead of the deadline. We know that Jake Allen's salary cap hit is about $3.4 million. So if there is a team looking for a goaltender for their playoff run, which you have to think there are going to be some teams that will be, that opens up a retention slot for the Canadiens to maybe retain salary on Jake Allen, or maybe on David Savard, whose cap hit is in and around the $3 million mark as well. And then also next year, Jake Allen and David Savard are both have 1 year left on their deals going into next season. So if Jake Allen and potentially, say, David Savard are going to be garnering some interest from the Canadiens, there's a retention spot available for one of those 2 players potentially to be dealt and some salary to be retained by the Montreal Canadiens. So that's an interesting piece of information there. And also from Dan Robertson, former play-by-play commentator of the Montreal Canadiens and now television commentator for the Winnipeg Jets, interestingly enough, and I had a chance to talk with Dan Robertson on Habs Tonight a couple years ago. Sean Monahan, over the last 2 seasons with the Montreal Canadiens, 74 games played, 19 goals, 33 assists for 52 points in those 74 games. A heck of a resurgence for Sean Monahan, who found himself on the 4th line for the Calgary Flames before being dealt to the Montreal Canadiens in the summer of 2022. So 13 power play goals, 2 shorthanded goals, and 55% in the faceoff dot for Sean Monahan, a guy that brings so many elements to a team. The Winnipeg Jets are going to be very happy to have him. And I think that the reason mainly being not just because of the statistical categories that I'm telling you here, but also the intangibles. You know, this guy can play power play. He played fantastic in the bumper spot on the power play for the Montreal Canadiens this season specifically, and also can play on the penalty kill. He can take key faceoffs in Montreal's own end near the end of games, or in this case, near the end of Winnipeg games. And a guy that frankly hasn't really had a chance to go for a Stanley Cup on a deep run yet. So hopefully Winnipeg can do that. I just like seeing better Canadian teams keep getting better. So the fact that, you know, the deals that we saw come across, you know, the Lindholm deal and now the Monahan deal, all involving Canadian teams, the Montreal Canadiens, the Winnipeg Jets, the Vancouver Canucks, and the Calgary Flames. I just like seeing Canadian teams get a lot better. So I'm encouraged by that. I'm also encouraged by the fact that I got to actually see Sean Monahan play his first ever game in a Montreal Canadiens uniform at the Bell Center live in person. I got to actually go to that game against the Toronto Maple Leafs where we won, and Sean Monahan almost had the game-winning goal against the Leafs on his birthday. Never mind. I mean, Sean Monahan wanted to make his debut with the Canadiens, and that was just before he got injured in December. He got to play on October 12th on his birthday, the home opener, the season opener for the Montreal Canadiens versus the Toronto Maple Leafs, and scored on his birthday. It was a heck of a debut. And we got to see him really, you know, get some good chemistry going with Juraj Slafkovsky. We saw him play really well with Slav recently on his line, and now Monahan is gone. So Slavkovsky's going to have a new centerman taking that role, of course. But, you know, something I know the Canadiens are going to miss him. I know emotionally it's tough to see Monahan go because it's hard to get consistent center players that center players. It's hard to get consistent centermen to, you know, be part of this Canadiens team during the rebuild here and stay. But there is an opportunity to re-sign him in the summer. Who knows? But I think the Canadiens really are thinking about the 2024 NHL draft here, and they're really looking ahead to see how they can make one of 2 first-round picks in a trade for a player like Trevor Zegras, Capo Caco. I mean, I think Zegras would be the more attractive piece here, maybe potentially, if it could work. And I know that everyone says all the issues about Trevor Zegras and the fact he's a showboater and this and that, and, you know, the Michigan guy and whatever. But if you think about it, if the Canadiens are really going to make a push to make another trade for a Kirby Dach, Alex Newhook-esque kind of trade this summer, this is how they're going to do it with this first-round pick for Sean Monahan, or the other first-round pick that they already have in the 2024 draft. So the Canadiens now have 2 first-round picks going into this 2024 draft, where the top 10, mainly the top 5 in this draft, are what are being projected to be the best players available. It's not as deep of a draft as last year in the Connor Bedard draft, but this is a draft where the Canadiens are going to try to land a forward if they can't in the top 5, if you will. And you know what? Like I said, the Canadiens are 26th overall at this point in the NHL standings right now, and you've got Minnesota right behind them at 47 points. Canadiens have 48. You've got the Ottawa Senators, who are really motivated to have a better second half. They have 42 points, and they could surpass the Canadiens here. I think it's going to be tough for the Canadiens to be as competitive now. Without Sean Monahan in the lineup, they won't be nearly as competitive as they were earlier this season. That's a fact. And we saw that by the numbers last year before he got injured. So I think now it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear that the Canadiens have their eyes fixated on the 2024 draft and making some trades, possibly some draft picks. The more they fall in the standings, the better chance they have to draft in maybe the top 5 now again, which would be a bit of a miracle considering how well the Canadiens kind of were sort of playing earlier this season, and now they've kind of fallen back down to earth. And with the Sean Monahan deal, there's no question that they are not going to be nearly as competitive a team going into the rest of the season here. Christian Dvorak is injured for the season, so it's going to be tough sledding for the Canadiens here, but it's all part of the plan. It's all part of the plan. Heath Ledger shadow. It's all part of the plan for the Canadiens to do this rebuild properly, to do it the right way. And by doing it with this Sean Monahan deal, it really emphasizes the focus on the 2024 draft and where the Canadiens are going to acquire more assets to help this rebuild along into next season, where the Canadiens believe, right out of Kent Hughes' mouth, that they'll be taking a big step forward next year in year 3 of the rebuild. So for the Winnipeg Jets' sake, I hope you enjoy Sean Monahan. We had him for a short time, but he was a great player to watch. He was very enjoyable. Consistency. I would call him the consistency king, maybe, or just one of them, veteran, solid player that brings you the same thing every night. And he does a lot of things away from the puck, including with the puck, that are great and are going to be a great asset to the Winnipeg Jets as a second or third line center, probably a second line center. I would like to think, so replacing maybe Rasmus Kupari as your second line center, Winnipeg, with Sean Monahan, and then having Adam Lowry as your third line center, Namestikov as your first line center. The Winnipeg Jets are set in that regard. So good for them, I will say. Yeah, there you have it. Also, big news coming out of the NHL. The NHL will, in fact, be returning to the Olympics in 2026 in Italy. I can't wait. That is amazing news. We might get one more Olympics out of Sidney Crosby, which is really exciting. I guarantee you he's not retiring now. Not before 2026 anyway. There's no chance. Crosby, McDavid, Bedard, all in the same team. Are you kidding me? For Team Canada, that is going to be a blast of 3 generational talents. I can't wait to see that personally. So I just want to throw that in at the end of this video here. So what do you guys think of the Sean Monahan deal? Put your comments down below. I want to hear it. I can't wait to hear it. It's all about the future, guys, and that's what this trade is about. So thank you guys for watching. Hit subscribe, hit like. Almost at 5,000 subscribers. Can we pass it with this video? Maybe. I appreciate the support, you guys. Stay tuned also for an interview with Canuck Clay coming out later today or tomorrow. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you really soon, guys.